Hi there, I'm Toni Lipsey, the crochet designer, educator, and author behind TL Yarn Crafts. Join me for this exclusive lesson from my Skillshare class, Learning the Basics of Crochet. For our coasters, we'll work with two of the basic crochet stitches, the single crochet and the double crochet. Before we start our coaster pattern, I want to dive a little bit deeper into the mechanics of these two stitches. First, I have a tiny swatch of our single crochet here. What you'll notice is that the single crochet is a quite small stitch. We have two loops here at the top of the stitch, and this little V is the body of the stitch. So what I have here is the front of my stitches, and just below it is a row that I'm seeing the back of my stitches. Here's how you'll work a single crochet stitch. I'm going to start the row with a chain 1. So I'll bring the yarn from back to front around the hook and pull through the loop. I'll now turn my work and I'm going to insert a single crochet in this first stitch here. Insert your hook under both loops of that stitch. I'm going to now yarn over, bringing the hook from back to front around the hook. Pull up the loop, which means bring the yarn through the stitch, and I have two loops on my hook now. I'll now bring the yarn around the hook again from back to front, and I'm going to pull through those two loops. And that completes my single crochet stitch. You can see that V on the front of the stitch and the two loops on the top of the stitch. Let's do that again. In my next stitch right here, I'm going to insert my hook, yarn over the hook from back to front, and pull that loop through the stitch. Two loops on my hook. I can now yarn over from back to front around the hook and pull through those final two loops. So our single crochet starts by inserting your hook into the stitch, yarn over from back to front around the hook, and using your hook head, I'm going to scoop that yarn through the stitch and pull that loop up and out of the work. What you'll notice is when I lift my hook, I'm trying to make sure that this loop I just lifted meets the height of the loop that was already on my hook. I'll now yarn over from back to front around my hook and pull through both of those loops. We're going to practice this stitch plenty for our coaster, but there's just the basics of how to do the single crochet. Now let's explore the double crochet. This top row here, I'm looking at the front of double crochet stitches. So you'll see that the post or the body of the stitch is quite tall compared to a single crochet. We do still have those two loops here at the top, and that's what we'll work under to add our stitches. And as you're creating stitches, you're basically creating rows on top of each other, so your fabric builds one row on top of the next. So I'm going to insert my hook into this loop and chain 1 to start my row and turn my work. So our first stitch goes under the top two loops of this first stitch. And for our double crochet, we're going to start by yarning over our hook first. So we're going to bring the yarn from back to front around the hook, and then insert our hook into that stitch, going just under these top two loops. Just like before, we're going to yarn over from back to front around our hook and use our hook head to scoop that yarn through the stitch. We've now pulled up a loop, and for our double crochet, at this stage we have 3 loops on our hook. At this point, we'll yarn over our hook from back to front, and we're going to bring our hook through just these first 2 loops. So I'm going to use my finger to hold this third loop back, pull through those first 2 loops, and lift your hook up and out. I now have 2 loops remaining on the hook. I'm going to yarn over the hook, so you bring the yarn from back to front around the hook and pull through those last 2 loops. And that completes our double crochet stitch. So the double crochet is a much taller stitch, but it also can create airiness in your fabric. So it's a great fit for projects that you need to be a little bit more flexible or looser in gauge. My crochet philosophy is if you can see it, you can make it. I believe that if you're able to put in the time and the effort and the focus, you can ultimately create anything that you see. You made it, congratulations. I am so proud of you. Now that you've got this lesson under your belt, join me over on Skillshare for the full class. And while you're here, go ahead and click subscribe for even more tips and tricks just like this.